this around.
Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to the latest edition, the latest episode of the AP Film Room tonight on the Arrowhead Pride YouTube, Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter to me, Facebook pages. We're live tonight talking ball as we do every Tuesday night. We've done it every Tuesday night. We've been good about that. Shout out to us being consistent. Talking ball, talking about the Chiefs' latest win. I am Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at the site. With me, as always, my guys, Caleb James and Nate Christensen at CJ Scoobs. For Caleb, at Nate CH32 on Twitter. For Nate, Caleb, we'll start with you because you got some new digs today, man. Congrats on the new place. How is it going down in Kansas City?
Things are going pretty well down here, just trying to hide all the clutter and mess. But, it's always nice when you get to a new landing spot and you set up to watch the football game and the Chiefs go ahead and win that week.
It's probably the most fun game of the year, I would say, just because the Bears game, it was the Bears, right, Nate? Chargers game, kind of whooping on them was pretty fun. How are you feeling about the game?
It was great. I'll just tell a quick story. I was at the Iowa-Minnesota game on Saturday, which was one of the most miserable football games I've ever been to. So, I was just – the first quarter, I was like, oh, my God, this is it was like watching two different sports. So, it was definitely – but in all seriousness, the Chiefs game was super fun to watch that first half. Even when, the defense had some struggles, I was still enjoying it. It was just – I kind of wanted to keep going. It was honestly one of the more enjoyable games I remember in several years.
Yeah, there is something about being an Iowa and Chiefs fan that is kind of just like the ultimate football oxymoron. Just, Chiefs offense, Iowa offense, watching it day by day. Yeah, that's amazing. Hopefully Iowa starts picking it up for you on offense. Gets that OC to his contract mark. I don't think that's happening, right? They're not on pace.
Oh, not even close.
Not even close. Yeah, yikes. All right, well, tonight we again are talking about the Chiefs Chargers game, the X's and O's from it. A lot of stuff happened in the game, but Nate, let me throw it right back to you because I think one of the highlights from the game was the return of Chiefs defensive lineman Charles Omenihu. And as I let you kind of get that going, I will say, first of all, shout out our commenters. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, said yo. And then Joshua Bundy actually just asked us if we caught the Ohio State game Saturday. We need to draft Cade Stover to work behind Travis Kelce. He was at Ohio State, Penn State. Wow. Okay. That's a big time game to be at. But okay, you've gotten some eyes on Stover. You kind of like what you see so far, Nate?
I remember watching him last year and thinking he was pretty athletic. I can't remember how good of a blocker he is, but I do think there's potential for him as a wide receiver. So yeah, I would definitely be happy with that. I'm definitely behind on my draft takes, but Cade Stover's good. So yeah, I would definitely be in on that. But anyways, about the Chiefs, for Arrowhead Pride this week, I wrote about Charles Omenihu, who had just a fantastic debut for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he could have played possibly any better from where he kind of started. And you kind of just saw the ways that the Chiefs are going to maximize a player of his skill set in many different ways. So we'll just kind of run through a bunch of clips. The first clip, this was the second third down of the game. I believe this was 3rd and 21, if I remember right. And who's going to be playing inside. He's going to, I'll kind of start playing the clip here. He's going to stunt inside to the A gap versus center. And I'll show kind of the end zone view, which is going to be a little bit of a better angle for this. But like what you kind of notice Omenihu immediately, and this is the same thing you saw with the 49ers, is just he just overwhelms interior offensive linemen with a combination of length and balance that just the Chiefs have not really had in their defense in such a long time. So he's going to stunt inside to the A gap here against this center. He's going to get kind of these pads low. He's going to start to get this kind of extension with this bull rush. And there aren't centers who generally have long, especially, 36-inch arms, let alone 32, 33-inch arms. So when you're kind of dealing with that as a center, like you're going to have to lean forward. Otherwise, Omenihu is just going to knock you on your butt. So what Omenihu does so well is he combines that with a lot of like these pull moves and like swim moves. And for a guy as tall and big as he is, he's incredibly well balanced. I think that's something that always stands out. Like he's able to kind of get a little bit of just like displacement here. Like even through like all this kind of like foot traffic, like just look at him kind of keep his balance. Like George is by his feet, this left guard's by his feet, and he's still able to kind of collect the sack. So that's just something that his ability to rush from the interior combined with what Chris Jones is doing off the edge is just absolutely tremendous. He had two really, I thought, good moments as a run defender. This play, the Chargers are going to be running what's kind of called dart, which is basically just power with a tackle pulling. And this play isn't like incredible by any means, but he's going to be kind of tight inside as this like strong side defensive end. And you kind of even notice like when he gets knocked to his knees, he still kind of has like the level of length and like strength to still be able to kind of hold up on this gap. He doesn't like make this play or anything, but like the fact that he's just, contributing to the run defense, he can play on the strong side, which I think is going to be something the Chiefs really use well. This play I thought was actually a good representation of what I personally believe that Charles Omenihu and Chris Jones will have great chemistry with each other. I think they actually play off each other incredibly well. And this is, to me, was more of just like the Chargers, like this right tackle, I think just takes a terrible pass at. My guess is that he's thinking that there's going to be some sort of stunt and he's trying to pass it off. But the right tackle and right guard are at the exact same depth, which is sort of a problem. But like, I also think like, I don't know this for a fact. I'd have to ask, but I think this right tackle is almost expecting like some sort of stunt, and he's trying to like kind of pass him off. He kind of takes this short set with this drag hand, and it kind of shows like Chris just has a tremendous amount of gravity, and Omenihu just being able to kind of play off this. Like this isn't an incredible play by Omenihu by any means. He kind of just walks into the sack, but I think the ability, the Chiefs can dictate matchups just based off, walking a linebacker up, doing whatever they want with the protections, and I think those two playing off each other interchangeably is going to be a real like asset for this defense. So I'm kind of excited to see how that develops. The other run defense clip I have, just you kind of see this is just a standard length where he's setting the edge. You see the length, you see the pads. His outside shoulder is free. He's got this right tackle pin. This right tackle couldn't even possibly move him because he can't even really get into his chest because Omenihu is just so long. And the last clip here, Omenihu is not really a guy with a ton of bend. He's just so big. It's really hard when you're that big and tall to like really turn around the corner. But he can kind of win around the corner just a little bit with some long strides, and he's strong to kind of bend through contact. So he and Chris Jones actually kind of meet each other at the top of the arc here as they both kind of come around the corner. Drew Tranquil's going to come on this kind of green dog blitz when Herbert is forced to step up. And Omenihu, compared to even like most big defensive ends, he has a little bit of bend. He just has enough to where he can threaten the corner. So that means that he can still kind of play defensive end and still kind of contribute. So overall, Omenihu's debut was fantastic. I don't think you can ask any more out of him. And it's just another element to this defense where they can just kind of shape shift and kind of dictate what they want to do to an offense. And I'm just really excited to kind of see what he and Chris Jones do. I'm surprised he played 32 snaps, which I was not ready for. I thought he was going to play like 10 to 15. But he played over half the game. I thought he looked fantastic. And it's just another piece to this defense that I think they needed a little more defensive line talent. And he's provided that instantly. So it's going to be really critical when we play these playoff offenses to have him in the mix.
Yeah, he said the sack he got right there was the happiest moment of his career. Personally, he said, he's very, excited to be. He kind of mentioned how, it's already kind of a put together puzzle, right? The pass rush, but he's kind of, maybe a secret piece. He kind of mentioned, he's ready to add the fire. He's excited. I wrote him up in his post game press conference. Caleb, you were at the game. You got an up and close view. You got an up and close view. You had some nice seats there Sunday. What did you see from Omenihu kind of in the pass rush, the first game with him in the mix?
Well, first of all, I thought that the biggest play he made all game was that batted pass where he
I forgot to record
back.
that. Yeah.
That was the game-changing play. That was the big momentum shift. Like you saw like where my seats were at from some of the videos I put on Twitter, but where that happened was right in front of us. And I saw him kind of like take a step back at the second. And I said, oh my God, he's going to put his hands up in the air. And sure enough, he hit it and Snead was able to find it, which the Chiefs are batting down a ridiculous amount of passes this season. It's almost absurd how good they've been at that overall. But I just thought like Nate mentioned, getting the guys on different levels and that stuff and kind of lining up with Chris Jones. I mean, it's going to be a serious problem.
I do actually have the clicker. I forgot I had it. If you want me to show it real quick.
Oh, nice. Let's
Run
do
it.
it. Yeah,
I had it recorded for the tweet, but I thought I had something recorded or not recorded on the long clip. But yeah, I mean, just Omenihu is just so long, and his ability to just like, I think he's really, again, I keep using this word, but I think he's really well coordinated, like overall as like an athlete, like even especially for like such a big defensive end, but his ability to get like his paws in the air and like he just covers so much ground. Like this is not an easy deflection by any means. To do it like outstretched to the side, like that is not like an easy deflection by any means, especially when a guard is like hitting you or a center, I guess, is hitting you in the chest. So like between George and Chris Jones, like it's gonna, like, it matters. Like offenses have to account for this now. Like they have to go into the game plan with a concentrated, like they have to probably change the way they drop, the way they protect, because they can't, like they need like throwing windows. So this is like I don't even have like a historical example off the top of my head of like what this like looks like and like a whole level. So I'm really excited to see, like, I think the Chiefs can do a ton to dictate matchups and protections based off just the fact that they can bat so many passes.
Yeah, and just think about like Herbert, can kind of maybe neutralize it more than other quarterbacks, but think about Jones and Omenihu rushing from the same side to the throwing side of a quarterback. Like, just talk about being uncomfortable, kind of trying to look through those two trees, trying to find your receivers downfield. Russell Wilson, we'll see it this week. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle that, maneuver around, trying to throw over. I mean, he struggles throwing over the middle of the field as is. We saw that with the Nick Bolton interception a couple weeks ago. But all right, Caleb, let's switch to the offensive side of the ball. You looked at a stellar game from the pass attack. What did you see from Sunday? Go ahead and tell us about. I mean, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes went 20-23 in the first half. Kelsey had 40 yards in the first half. Just a ridiculous game from the Hall of Fame duo.
Yeah, and just while we're bringing some of these up real quick, I mean, you really saw like why Mahomes and Kelsey are special. One of the things they busted out that they haven't run a lot of this year is the 13 personnel. They ran it again, and it created some explosive downfield plays, and it created some big chunk plays, like this one that Kelsey, he busted this one for a ways downfield. But, and honestly, you can kind of see him and Gray are running their routes close to one another, and then he kind of cuts back inside, letting Gray kind of be like the lead man there, and that he almost comes in and scores. And you can just see, with the formation they get into here, like they're both, Gray and Kelsey are both running vertically upfield pretty much at the same time. Kelsey just waits for that bit of separation. Mahomes was on fire too, by the way. I think the whole thing that made this tick and what was a lot better than what we saw the week before is that, this was a big-time Mahomes game. I think they were extremely fired up. I think he was extremely locked in to play. And, when they've played the Chargers in the past, it's been like these dogfight games. And this game was almost like that for a little while. But then the Chiefs just kind of started to flex their muscle on them. And I thought that was kind of, almost the most fun part of this. And you just go back and it was just like classic Kelsey and Mahomes. Like you see the motion over there from Scantling. They're just trying to kind of figure out what they're in. But the linebackers are all thinking defend the sticks, and Kelsey somehow manages to get behind them as always, no matter what. So And he also accounted for 9 first downs on his 12 receptions, and he was big on third down also. He converted 3 of them throughout the day. Pass protection was pretty solid throughout the game also. And, they did find Kelsey for a touchdown. So I feel like the little power jet flip and been getting a little bit run into the ground. Teams have been starting to pick it off, so they show a little bit of a new look. They run kind of like almost like this offset zone RPO, and the play does get blown up. I did like the look, though, even though it doesn't quite work out. But, they still get it to Kelsey, and honestly, he's 2.5 yards out here. He's got the ball. He's putting the ball over his head. But this is kind of like the Chiefs version of like the Eagles shove, because now they got Taylor and Smith and Tooney and Humphrey, and they all just kind of push him in while Kelsey's got the ball cradled over his head. So I thought, that was a fun play just to be able to get him into the end zone, because he had like almost 200 receiving yards. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the Chargers' game plan was for a lot of this stuff. Like, was their whole game plan like, oh, we'll defend everyone else and then just deal with Kelsey? I don't know if that was the right way to go, because in the past you feel like they've almost had like a plan. And I think one of the other big things was the pass rush for the Chargers was non-existent all day. That's kind of been, in the past where we've kind of seen them, be able to kind of win and be able to force some turnovers here and there. This week you didn't really see any of that. But I'll also say I've been kind of hard on MVS. I might have referred to him as the invisible man the last couple of weeks. I will say this, though. Mahomes is clearly more comfortable with him in the improvisation passing game than any of the other guys, in the receiving core right now. And, it kind of makes sense why this play works out. He's got the great long speed, not really the great separation, but as Mahomes starts to kind of work his way to the right there, he's kind of able to just kind of work his way to the sideline also. And the Chargers were a little bit lost. I mean, I don't think the Chargers secondary has ever been that great. They've looked especially bad this game, especially when their pass rush couldn't hold up. And it's just weird because, you feel like Brandon Staley would have come in expecting something different, and the Chiefs beat the teams. The Chiefs beat the Chargers doing exactly what teams say you can't let the Chiefs do. Like, they created explosive plays downfield. Kelsey had a giant game. And like you see here, they didn't really contain Mahomes. Shout out Donovan Smith. Shout out both the tackles. They really kind of beat up Bosa and Mack in there. Those guys were looking kind of old and decrepit, and saying that about, Donovan Smith making a guy look old and decrepit is kind of funny. But, I mean, bad contained there by Bosa, and you see Mahomes just put it on Scantling. So I do like the fact that they got Scantling involved. I like the fact that him and Mahomes are showing a little bit of that chemistry with their game, just because I think it's something that they'll be able to, kind of build upon as the season goes along. But how about Rashee Rice? And I thought Rice played a real good game. So he continues to have like these great instances in the red zone, but I still think it's the yak where we're seeing. So they got like the 2 areas they're developing him in. They're letting him run these red zone routes where he can kind of like make the simple read, find like the open space in the end zone, and let Mahomes kind of get the feel for where he's at. But they're also running some of these like quick hitters, and they kind of run like this little levels look right here. And, everyone's looking at Travis Kelsey. Like, you have all these defenders are all clearly keying in on Travis Kelsey because he's almost at 150 yards at this point. Rice is getting ready to come free just over the middle on this cross, and he catches it, and then you see some speed, and I see everyone's kind of labeling him as like the power slot. Eventually, he's going to get one of these plays where he's going to break a long run. Like, his explosion when he has the ball in his hands, I think, has been extremely impressive. He had the 60 receiving yards, 47 were on some yard after the catch looks here. And, I mean, Mahomes is so good. He's, like, giving Kelsey the look. He's giving him the head, and then he just sings it over the middle to Rice there. And then we just hop back into this screenplay. Love this, though. They give the little motion. They're helping out Joe Tooney because the Chargers kind of mixing things up. But 43's following Rice. So you see Joe Tooney, 62 right there. He's eyeballing 43 once he sees him because that's kind of giving him his landmark. You see his head move there. He gets out, gets a hand on him, and delivering the punishment. You can be the hammer, you can be the nail. I like that Rice has decided to be the nail. And I didn't really get his release on this play. I just thought it was a good block there by Tooney. But you see, I still, from the end zone view, you can see that is a really impressive, catch in the back of the end zone. So you kind of got like the full glimpse of Rice this week when it comes to what he can do. You got kind of like an athletic end zone grab, does a good job creating space in a short area. And then you have like the explosive plays in the open field and some of the physicality that we all really like to see from him. So I thought it was an extremely encouraging performance overall. And I mean, it was a massive day. I mean, I think Mahomes almost jumped right back into everyone's, forefront of being the MVP leaderboard just based on this performance. And I was pretty sure Brandon Staley was going to get fired like yesterday at some point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to throw it to Nate too. Cause Nate, you were in the group chat, hammering Staley pretty hard. Bosa too. I think Bosa caught some heat too. What did you see from the Chargers defense in the throttling on Sunday?
I'll never know more than Brandon Staley does on defense, but I don't even know how you walk into the game with that game plan. Like they were playing basically like cover 4, and they were playing like the worst version of cover 4 ever. And they just like had no middle of the field, like hook defender at all. Like after one drive, how do you not throw away that game plan and just be like, we just have to drop a safety? And the funny thing is, like, it took them 3 quarters, and then they finally realized if we drop a safety in the middle of the field and play man-to-man, it's going to slow down the Chiefs. The Chiefs did have some, like, the 2 counters in the red zone to end the game. But, like, it worked, and I'm just like, Brandon Staley has this is his 3rd year, so he has 4 games of knowledge of playing Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, and he acted like he had never seen him before. Like, I was so baffled at the game plan. It was like easy mode. The Chiefs could have just thrown to Kelce every single play and generated an explosive play. It's like they had no idea who he was.
Yeah. And you'd think the team that has played him twice a year for the past, his entire career would
pretty well. Like they've always played him pretty well.
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, he's had big plays at the end of games, but he's,
right.
That one overtime game particularly, I think he didn't even do anything until the 4th quarter. It is odd. Caleb, back to you though, just to ask, because Joshua Bundy is commenting a few things. First of all, just agreed with you that the first half was a dogfight, but made great adjustments for the second half and dominated. But he asked if we see MVS on the team next year. I think we've all been pretty, and I don't want to speak for anybody, so correct me if I'm wrong, but all been pretty, accepting that he may not be around next year. But did a game like that, Caleb, change your mind at all? Just curious, kind of, his connection with Mahomes.
Well, I still think it's going to be up to MVS whether he's on the team next year. And, they bring in McCole Hardman. I didn't even show the one McCole Hardman reception there, which was kind of like a sneaky little route by Andy. He just threw in the end there. It was a concept they've run in the past, just kind of Hardman on the drag. But I mean, yeah, it is going to be up to MVS whether he's on the team next year. He is making, the most money of any wide receiver. And I know it's not a lot or anything like that, but we, here in the Kingdom, we judge people on the amount of money they make or their draft selection pretty highly when it comes to, how we criticize and analyze our guys. So if he can keep, putting up performances like this where he can create one explosive play a game, I think it's worth keeping around, because you never know at some point with those explosive plays, he will go nuclear, kind of like how he did this week, kind of like how he did in the AFC Championship game. But it's just the few and far in between. Like, it's like the last 3 weeks of him, it's been like, where have you been? It's like we desperately need someone to step up, and you just haven't, he hasn't really been here.
Well, I think Justin Watson going out has kind of opened up MVS to be maybe the most relied on, because I think it was obvious that Mahomes liked throwing to Watson more than MVS down the field. I think their connection was just so good. But I think you saw that MVS and Mahomes' connection can be too. And you're right, when you look at next year's receiver group, like if they're all on rookie deals still, right? Like if they just draft another guy, if they don't really sign or trade for someone, like they're still going to need someone with a veteran sort of deal in the receiver group. So it is interesting, but I still think he's probably not around next season. Nate, do you have a take on that before we move on?
I would be fine bringing it back, but not on the cap hit he's on.
Yeah.
Like I know like the Chiefs have ways to open cap space, but you just can't play a player of his skill set $12 million. I just think it's really replaceable. Yeah. But like if he wants to come back at like $5 million, then like sure. Like I think he provides value to the offense in that way, but it'd have to be on some sort of reduced pay cut for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I think, because I do think he's a very replaceable at that number specifically, very replaceable. But let's talk some defense. Back to the defense side of the ball. Nate, you kind of highlighted how Omenihu helped the defensive line kind of dominate on Sunday, dominate this matchup. But, you know, like it has been all year, the Chiefs defense was kind of fueled by the pass coverage on Sunday. You know, when there were some rough spots for the defense on Sunday, it was because the Chargers were doing a very good job of targeting, you know, the secondary players in the secondary, right? The secondary players in terms of the, you know, the not Snead, not McDuffie players. You know, Brian Cook got targeted deep a few times. You know, Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, you know, had some reps where maybe, you know, they were taken advantage of a little bit. But what they did do on, you know, on this play, particularly on the first drive where Karlaftis ended it with the sack, they did what they've been doing all year to primary targets, primary receivers. They doubled Keenan Allen here, actually bracketed him with Brian Cook, with Jalen Watson as the man defender here. And so we've seen them do that with guys like Calvin Ridley, right? We've seen them do that with Justin Jefferson situationally. You know, and what this does here specifically is it just completely takes away Keenan from Herbert's reads. And Herbert was kind of banking on Keenan Allen coming open at the last second here. So you're going to see Keenan or Herbert, excuse me, look right. Kind of, you know, see that it's just a little too tight over here, right? There's nowhere really to go with this. I'm going to move this again. Just keeps getting in my way. But so if you look at the top of the screen, you know, it just Snead's kind of got that covered up on the sideline. There's nowhere to go with it. You know, Willie's kind of threatening over here, so you don't want to maybe, you know, you kind of might be scared off by that. And so that makes them go to a second read down here, or, you know, back to just, okay, I need to find Keenan. It's third down. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, here's where you'll see Brian Cook come down. They're going to have initially, you know, almost looks like a cover zero look because he's so down into this box here and kind of not even acting like he's going to be playing a true safety position. He's really just truly locked into bracketing Keenan Allen here. And look at the physicality it brings to it. Keenan Allen's the one who actually, you know, it kind of initiates the physicality, right? But great job of Brian Cook of just absorbing it, you know, not getting shaken up by it, kind of keeping his inside leverage while Jalen Watson contains the outside leverage. And there's just nowhere for Keenan to go. Like, where is Herbert supposed to even try to throw this ball? You know, if he does come back and just say, oh, shoot, I got to give it somewhere. You know, there's just nowhere for him to go. They just blanket it very well. This has been happening all year. And then you're going to see McDuffie down here, you know, pretty much blanket Quentin Johnson out of the slot on the whip route, or on the slant return route, I should say. And yeah, you're just going to see Karlaftis, you know, take advantage of that coverage, that good coverage, and finally get the sack once Herbert can't find an open guy. So, yeah, I wrote about the coverage this week, you know, for, you know, all season, but just from this game, that was one example of the double teams. Another thing, though, that I've been, you know, impressed with from the defensive backfield is the safeties kind of seem like they're making more plays or just kind of being more instinctual. You know, this is one example, kind of a subtle example too, a small example, but I just thought it was cool. You know, you're going to see here, based on formation, based on tendencies, probably film study, Justin Reed is going to kind of jump the slant here, right? He's going to kind of jump right into the slant window right at the snap, and he's going to take it away, prevent Herbert from throwing it. But I say prevent Herbert from throwing it, you know, this is like the first play of the game, I think. It actually, I think, is the exact first play of the game. An undisciplined quarterback, Herbert is just a supercomputer a lot of times in his brain, and almost to a fault sometimes, which I can talk about that a little bit too. But you know, he is a very good processor, and he does do well at seeing this. Okay, Justin Reed, he took that away, so I'm just going to casually go to my second, third read. Like that's a very good rep on Herbert's part, you know, getting through his reads. A more casual quarterback, a more undisciplined quarterback, this might be an interception, because they're not really relying on that, or not thinking about that safety crashing that hard on the slant route. You know, they're just really, you know, maybe looking at, okay, is the linebacker out of my way, right? Willie's not really truly in the way of the window. So I just think this is a cool play because I think against a, you know, maybe more undisciplined younger quarterback, you know, a guy that's more susceptible to know, maybe just kind of not thinking about it. This could have been a pick six with the way Justin Reed kind of jumps into the window and, could have picked it off if it was thrown there. But he also had a few. He actually leads the Chiefs in passes defended with 6, and that's the second most passes defended by any safety in the NFL this year. He's tied with a few other guys, but the second most pass breakups, Justin Reed. That's pretty amazing to me. He had 7 all last year. He already has 6. So he's definitely seeing kind of the ball more, maybe just kind of jumping on routes more. I really like this rep from him. You're going to kind of see him start close to the line of scrimmage, but he's going to bail, and it's going to turn into a 2-high look. And you're going to see him. It's going to be kind of a cover two action where Jalen Watson's kind of going to be this lower corner, this lower defender, kind of just reading here and kind of maybe being influenced by the shorter route, which brings him up, gives room maybe for this out route, right? Well, watch Justin Reed just casually backpedal, get into his depth here, and just make a really nice play on the ball, break it up. That's just a really good play from Justin Reed. I wrote about the whole season this week, so this is just another play from the Vikings game earlier where, again, I just like the aggressiveness at the point of attack. You're just going to see him really bring a jolt to the hit. It really, obviously I think causes the incompletion. It's a little bit high of a pass too, but just good to see some more playmaking from the safety position. I think that's something I specifically complained about last year. With the player that I'm talking about right now. But he's answering the bell, that's for sure. And one last thing, Mike Edwards too is also making plays. He continues to make plays. He made another one, should have picked it off. I don't know how many times I feel like I've said that about Mike Edwards this year. He should have intercepted a pass, but nearly does. This was a cool play. They kind of switch up how they're using their dime package, right? We've seen usually most of the time, the dime safety, the guy joining Bolton closer to the line of scrimmage in the box is usually Justin Reed. But on this play, you're going to see them go to a 2-high look where Reed and Cook are both the 2-high guys, in the 2 safeties. And Edwards is going to be one closer to the line of scrimmage. And what he's actually going to do is just work, in a man coverage, not a complete man coverage. It is zone, but he's going to man match, right once Keenan Allen is in the position he is. He has Keenan Allen, right? He's basically in man coverage Keenan Allen in this position. And he just does a great job of just reading the route, waiting on it, knowing where the sticks are, right? He knows where the first down marker is. For those that can't see it, it's right at this 46-yard line. He knows where it is. He's waiting on that cut, and he just breaks on it really well, makes a play. Should have intercepted it, like I mentioned. But again, I actually think Herbert was late here. I think if Herbert throws this earlier and accurately too, he throws it way too inside. This could have been a completion still, but Mike Edwards definitely should have picked that off. But yeah, so I think a great performance from the Chiefs pass coverage. Once again, the back end continued to make plays. The Chargers offense was one of the most high scoring or one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. It was top 10 in yards, top 10 in points. Outside of a little bit of stretch in the second quarter, the Chiefs defense really stifled them once again, really just kind of made Herbert, not look very good. And I think Herbert hasn't played that well over the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you. But it was good to see the pass coverage step up once again. Nate, when you watch the Chiefs pass defense, but behind Omenihu, right? What the coverage was looking like, just this entire season, I guess, just, how impressed are you with how the defensive backs are playing?
Well, I mean, overall in the season, they're playing great. I wanted to mention, I thought Kellen Moore had a really good game plan in the first half. I thought he did a really good job. Like, the Chiefs were deciding to play a lot of man coverage, and he was getting Nick Bolton isolated on Keenan Allen downfield, and they were kind of taking advantage of some of the safeties. Like Joshua Palmer's huge play was on Brian Cook one-on-one. But I thought the Chiefs made a good adjustment in the second half where they were just okay, we can't play man coverage as much this week because we're just being beat there. So let's just play a little more zone. Let's just play more quarters. Let's play more cover 2. And I thought that was a really good kind of change up there. And I thought that was kind of important. The fact that they were able to just kind of seamlessly go to a zone, that sounds really easy, but that's not super easy. Just being able to kind of on the fly kind of switch coverages like that. So I thought that was an important kind of step for the Chiefs because last year they were playing so predominantly cover 2 because of all the young guys. And this year they've been playing a lot of man-to-man, and it's been working all year, but then they were able to kind of easily flip back to zones. I think that just kind of shows the fact that they just have such a kind of a bank of knowledge at this point and experience. And I think that's what makes them such a it makes it such a good thing when you have to play playoff offenses and you have to be able to kind of shift on the fly. So that was something that wasn't, I don't think, there as much last year because of the young guys. So I think that's just an area of growth for the defense.
No, it's a great point, and I want to bring up this play. I was going to show it. I just figured it didn't really come up naturally, but now it did, because you're right. I think you are seeing Spags get deeper in his bag, and I think the biggest, the most evident way you're seeing that is right at the snap. Changing coverages or changing your look. Right. I think he's been doing a very good job at pre-snap disguising, and then his guys rotating last second and giving quarterbacks just that split second to think about what they're doing. And this was one of my favorite versions of that from Sunday. So let's just break it down real quick. It looks like they're just in a one high look. It is a nickel personnel. You're going to see Drew Tranquil here, Nick Bolton over here. Man coverage across the board for the most part, right? Bolton's kind of coming out here for the slot receiver here. Reed's coming down, so he's going to kind of play that robber role, and we got a one high look. As that snap creeps closer, all of a sudden, where does McDuffie go? McDuffie's communicating. Here comes the snap. Here's the shift. All of a sudden, boom, we are in traditional cover 2, but not in a traditional way, right? McDuffie is one of the two high safeties. Reed is now in the box as one of those curl hook zones, specifically the hook zone. And Bolton is actually kind of playing technically that slot defender role, kind of in his own curl zone out here, playing in the cover 2 look. And all of a sudden, boom, you kind of just, that little thing there is just going to, in some instances, in this instance it does. Herbert's just going to kind of shoot, I'm just going to get to the next play, just take my completion where it is. I'm not even going to try to read through my cover, read through what's going on, because they just threw me off so much, because all of a sudden their slot corner is bailing to too high when they don't really do that. I mean, it's really a pretty rare thing they do, but they can have that in their bag. So shout out Nate for bringing that up. But yeah, I think Spags is definitely in his bag. Caleb, do you agree? Is Spags just cooking with these DBs?
Yeah, and I mean, really, the entire coaching staff, weeks like this, you can see they dipped into what they're going to be doing later on in the year. I thought this is, maybe one of the first examples of that, where they started to show some of their special sauce a little bit, if you want to say. But I mean, really, just with them keening on Herbert's tendencies to want to check it down and being able to get the matchups that they like, it's they're doing a good job of even getting into the mind of the player that they're going against to some extent there. They're starting to get used to that. And I tell you, man, some of these Chiefs Chargers games in the years past, they've all come down to one possession. When the Chiefs defense came out and they started getting stops in the second half, they started getting after the quarterback and started, putting some hits on him. It was yeah, this unit is legit.
It is legit is the word. Nate, any final words, any final thoughts before we get out of here on just 6-1 Chiefs? Omenihu coming back, defense looking elite, offense bouncing back. Any final words?
Yeah, I don't want to go super long with this, but I think the thing that really impresses me about the defense this year is I didn't tweet this out, but I mentioned it in my article. There's kind of, just to be kind of simplistic, there's 2 ways to play defense. You could play fast and you could play structured. And the Chiefs in the past had played really fast, but they had to compromise some structure to do that because of how much they had to blitz and how much they had to cover up certain players because of certain things to get them to play fast. The Chiefs this year are playing very structured defense. They're just playing very fast, and that's the sign of a really good defense. When you think of the best defenses in the NFL, I think of the Jets. I think of the 49ers. I think the Bills when they're healthy. They don't do a ton of exotic, crazy things, but they play so fast because they're a hive mind on defense. And I think that's what the Chiefs have finally achieved. It took them, this is what Spags is, 5th year. So they finally got the right personnel. They have the continuity. They have enough speed to be able to do that. And I've mentioned this, I think, every week. There is no reason why this isn't sustainable. They're not doing anything crazy. They're not getting insane turnover luck or sack luck. This is just playing good, sound defense. And that's going to carry them in the playoffs. They're going to be able to rely on this defense in the playoffs because they can just change and be able to still play within a structure of a defense while playing very fast.
Now, the it's a really good point about the sustainability. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're if anything, they're going to get better turnover luck probably as they go because they really haven't produced many turnovers. They haven't produced many interceptions. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it'll be cool to see them evolve as the season goes. Caleb, I'll give you another chance for any final words before we get out of here. You got anything?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, the Chargers spent a bunch of money, and everyone thought they were going to take over because the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. And 2 years later, that just shows you how things can go in the NFL. The Chargers aren't making the playoffs this year. I don't think they will. They could still get hot at the right time, but they look dead in the water right now. And not only that, I think the thing that's been underlooked a lot this season is the fact that the Chiefs have become one of the most physical teams in the NFL on both sides of the ball. The whole you have to have two elite pass rushers and play, too high coverage and drop everyone back to beat Mahomes. Well, now he's throwing slants and they're just tearing up the middle of the field doing whatever they want in the 10 to 15 yard range. And they didn't spend a ton of money on their defensive line outside of Chris Jones, but the guys they've developed along the way are starting to look rather impressive. So, I mean, like Nate said, this is completely sustainable what they're doing, even, as a whole team right now.
Yeah, and it is amazing how we are spoiled fans. We've had maybe some negative tones to our discussions at times this season, and this team. If everyone's seen the Aaron Schatz tweet, this team is top 5 DVOA offense, defense, special teams. The only team that's done that since the 1999 Rams. We're looking good in Kansas City. So let's keep the good vibes. Go Chiefs. We will be back next week to talk about the Broncos game. Hopefully another victory. Hopefully they avoid that trap game with the Dolphins game coming up after that. I think it's going to be easy for all of us to be looking forward to that one in Germany. But the team needs to take care of business in Denver. So we will be back talking about that. But appreciate everyone listening tonight, everyone joining tonight. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Make sure you follow the site, and check out all the latest articles. And for Caleb, for Nate, I am Ron. I appreciate you watching, and we will catch you next time.